Have you ever found yourself really far from home and you don't want to run all the way back? Or maybe you're in a sticky situation where things aren't looking so good for you and you want to get out of there smart quick. Well, have I got the device for you? This simple device saves you simply by relogging within a short period of time. Check this out. Just like that, I am home safe and sound. And today I will be showing you just how to make this device. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Obsidian Mace and you are watching the Craftbench. This is the fourth episode in this little mini series of my teleporter designs. So allow me to quickly tell you how this machine works so we can get into the building. This machine functions on a Java multiplayer server. That's because when you disconnect from your multiplayer servers, ender pearls disappear and then reappear when you reconnect. Putting an observer facing a string, you therefore get an output which this machine will allow you to pick up if you relog within a 10-second window or longer, depending on however much you put into the item hopper, to allow you to teleport to safety from wherever you are and whatever situation you may be in. Let me just pause and remind you that do not do this on a PvP server because you will get punished for combat logging. Do I make myself clear? Let's take a moment to address why you would use this rather than something else such as the fishing rod teleportation system. Well, the first reason is that this is completely glitchless, so it won't get patched in a future update. It also doesn't require you to have an item in your inventory, such as the fishing rod, to activate it. Another benefit of this design is that it is completely stable and won't break when you do a regular relog, nor will it break if you happen to load the chunks that it is resting in. And of course, finally, is that with the modifications that I'll be showing you later, you will be able to set up multiple of these across your world and have full control over where you teleport to. So let's get into talking about how to build this design. The first thing to note is that it is using a nether portal chunk loader. Any nether portal chunk loader will do. The nether portal chunk loader that I'm using is by Elitex tutorial. I won't be telling you how to make it personally, but I have put a link in the description to their video if you want to follow through and use the same one. Nether portal chunk loaders load a 3x3 chunk area around them, loading a total of 9 chunks each. The exact location doesn't necessarily matter in relation to your actual device, as long as it is being loaded. I wasn't originally going to do a build tutorial for this device, as you can see, it is super simple in design. You could recreate it from a simple screenshot. However, I do want to demonstrate some modifications to this design that will make it exponentially more useful than it is currently. So let's get into how you make the base design first before we do those modifications. To create the basic design, you will need these items in exact amounts, along with a stack of random blocks which you will use to set your pulse extender. Of course, you will also need these items down here to set up your stasis chambers. To set up the modified version, you will need these additional items on top of what you already have here. So let's begin making our simple teleporter. We're going to start off by digging a 6-block deep hole for our first stasis chamber. We're going to place the water up the top and fill it in with some kelp. We're going to break that kelp, place soul sand at the bottom, and this makes ourselves a bubble column. Then we will place an observer facing towards that bubble column, some string over the top, and we can throw in our first 3 ender pearls. Be careful they don't hit you on the way out. 3 ender pearls are used so that if 1 ender pearl were to leave the string, it won't fire a pulse, thereby making it so that it will only fire when you disconnect or reconnect. Next, we'll place 3 redstone dust around the side of the observer, a redstone repeater into a building block, which we'll place some redstone dust on top of. We'll place a redstone comparator facing into that building block from this side, a gap of 2, a redstone comparator facing this direction into another building block with another piece of redstone dust on top of it. We'll place down a temporary block and a hopper facing into it, break your temporary block, and face a second hopper into that first one. Then we will take a sticky piston and place it above the comparator on this side, and a regular piston above the comparator on the other side. Now we want to place a block of redstone up here, and however many of our chosen items into here. I go with 14 because 14 allows you a 10-second window to relog. It will activate the system once, and once it finishes a cycle, it will settle. Next, we place a sticky piston here, and a block in front of it. Then we extend our redstone dust across, a redstone repeater going into where this block would be. And then on either side of where that block would be pushed to, you can have your output. We're just going to put a trapdoor and another stasis chamber here, but you can make it as complex as you want. Once I have my stasis chamber in place, I can throw an ender pearl in, and it is now officially ready to go. Make sure you've got your chunk loader going so that you can actually get teleported back here whenever you need. One thing to note is that this doesn't have to be connected to a stasis chamber. You can connect it to anything you want. It doesn't have to be a teleporter. This can be a remote activation switch for literally anything you think of. But what if you want to have multiple of these set up in various different locations for various different purposes, and you want to have control over which ones activate rather than having them all activate at once? Well, that is where the alternate design comes in. To make the alternate design, we're going to have to make a couple small changes to the old design. First of all, we'll remove this building block and sticky piston from there. And off of this hopper, we will place an elbow of 3 building blocks. And off of this redstone, we'll place another elbow of 3 building blocks. We want to grab some redstone dust, place it there and there. A repeater facing into this block. We want to put a redstone torch here, redstone dust there. We want to get rid of this block here to allow us to put a building block that will get pushed down by a piston facing downwards from there. And finally, we take one last building block and place it above this redstone here to separate these 2 lines. And just like that, your new contraption is ready to go. So what exactly has changed here? Well, what we've done is we've added an AND gate here, which when a certain condition is met, the piston will pull up the block, allowing the circuit to be complete. That condition is when the redstone block here is pushed to this side, and while there are items still in this hopper. This allows it so that if we put different amounts of items in the hopper, it will be able to activate at different times. It is currently set with 14 items to have an activation window of approximately 5 to 10 seconds. If we were to double that and make it 28, that activation window becomes 10 to 20 seconds. If we were to put a further 28 blocks into the item hopper, it would then become an activation window of 20 to 40 seconds. Unfortunately, it is limited in how many settings you can have, because the way that servers work is that when the last player disconnects, the server freezes after 60 seconds, regardless of if you have a portal chunk loader going. So you'll only be able to have the activation window set up to 60 seconds. But rather than me just telling you how this could work, allow me to demonstrate. So to demonstrate, I've set up 3 of these machines. One that is a 5 to 10 second machine, another which is 10 to 20, and a final one which is 20 to 40 seconds. We'll start off with our 5 to 10 seconds. We'll disconnect, reconnect in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. It activated. Now that they're all reset, we'll go for the 10 to 20 seconds one. Disconnect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and you can see that this one has activated as well. The first one hasn't turned off, therefore it wasn't fired, and the last one still hasn't turned on either. And finally, with the last one reset, we will now disconnect one last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now we can relog anytime we want within the next 20 seconds, so let's go now. And as we can see, the final one has now turned on. So just like that, guys, there's some demonstration that you can set this up so that they each activate at different times. Meaning if you want to use them as teleporters, you can put one in multiple different bases to allow you to teleport to those bases simply by relogging at specific times. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be a teleporter. You can relog to activate anything else you want. One thing I thought of was potentially a mob switch. But wait, if you don't want to be doubling that activation time with each one of these machines you set up, there is one last machine that I can show you that gives you a bit more control and allows you to set up even more of these machines into that 1 minute window. Let me show you. This design is significantly larger than the previous designs and a little bit more complicated, but it will get us those very valuable extra setups. These are the blocks that you need in exact amounts, and of course you'll want some stuff to set up your stasis chambers. To begin, we want to place 2 pulse extenders that we've been using in the previous designs, 1 block apart from each other. So we'll throw those in real quick. And now that we've got these 2 pulse extenders in, behind them, we want to throw in on one side a redstone torch leading into a redstone dust, and on the other side, just a bit of redstone dust leading into a repeater. And then we want to lead both of those into an AND gate. So we'll put down our 3 blocks, 2 torches, redstone dust, and a 3rd torch. Next, we want to go back over to the front end of our machine. We'll put a redstone repeater into both of our pulse extenders and some redstone dust across the front. Next, we want to put in our first stasis chamber that gets detected. So we'll throw in an observer and we'll dig down 6 blocks in front of that observer. Of course, we'll put in our water, fill it up with kelp, break the kelp, put in the soul sand, and put down a string in front of it. And then we'll put in our 3 ender pearls. Once those 3 ender pearls are in place, we'll put an observer on top of the first observer, put down a temporary block, and a block in front of it leading towards our pulse extenders, then breaking our temporary block. We'll place the rest of our building blocks along this direction, and then we'll place a sticky piston in front of this torch with 2 sand put on top of that. Heading back over here, we'll place down the remainder of our redstone dust along the top of this with our redstone repeater on the end. Now when this piston extends, it'll push the sand up, allowing the output to be taken from any of the sides of the sand. For simplicity of demonstration, what I'm going to do is place a copper bulb there rather than a stasis chamber. But of course, you can place whatever you want there. The final stage of setting this up is putting our blocks that we want this to be timed for into our pulse extenders. So you want to put the shorter amount of blocks into the one that has the redstone torch, the longer amount into the one with the repeater. For me, I'm going to put 7 and 14. This will allow so that I have an activation window of 5 to 10 seconds. If I were to put 14 in the first one and 21 in the second one, I would have an activation window of 10 to 15 seconds, and so on so forth. So to demonstrate, what we'll do is we'll turn on our chunk loader once again. I will disconnect, wait 5 seconds, 2, 3, 4, 5, reconnect, and that light should turn on. There it is. And of course you can set up as many of these as you want, up to that 60-second window. I will admit that I am not a very advanced redstoner, so while I've made an attempt to reduce the footprint of these designs, they can no doubt be improved further, and I welcome you to do so. And there you have it. Now you guys know how to make these designs all on your own. Not just the basic design that will allow you to have one setup, but also these more advanced designs that allow you to have it set up across many different areas with many different functionalities. Of course, this design is very helpful to allow you to escape those sticky situations, or just to have you activate things from a distance, however you choose to use it. This being my 4th episode in this little series, I do hope that this is the last one of these that you'll see from me, as I don't want to be beating a dead horse. But of course, if some major development comes along, do expect to see more, but hopefully not. With that said, of course, thank you for joining me in today's episode, and I'll see you guys all again soon in a future video. See you later.